Hey guys, no, I am not Batman, but I am in Hartford, Connecticut this weekend at a volleyball tournament, and it is cold. So I am going to wear this very attractive Batman hat. That's right, Nick DeRose. You know you want one of these. Hey, anyways, going to do a quick review of what happens after Reconstruction. Okay, so we start to move westward, and don't forget, as we're doing this review, you guys, we're going to go a little backwards and forwards, and then backwards and forwards again to try and piece together some history. So, you ready? I want you to take a journey with Batman. Talk about the Transcontinental Railroad really starts in the 1830s, but of course, it doesn't really get underway until the 1860s. In fact, Abraham Lincoln really explains to the state of California that, hey, we are going to make this railroad. It was probably to make sure that California stayed on the side of the Union. But anyways, we have two competing railroads. You got the Central Pacific, which is working from the west, and remember, they have Chinese immigrants working for them. They're going through the Sierra Nevadas and the Rocky Mountains, the most difficult part of the journey as far as labor goes. Remember, a lot of the Chinese came over during the gold rush in 1849, and I know we haven't talked about that quite yet, but that's the reason why there are so many Chinese immigrants available for work. The other railroad is the Union Pacific, which was working from east, starting in Omaha, Nebraska, to the west. And remember, mostly the Irish are working on that railroad, but as you guys read, it's also Irish immigrants, German immigrants, and things of that nature. Before the Transcontinental Railroad was completed, really cost about $1,500 to get yourself out to the West Coast. After it's completed, goes down to $150. So really made things a little bit more expensive inexpensive for people. The Native Americans called it the Iron Horse, and they understood that this was going to change their way of life. Remember, we looked at those pictures, and it was going to hurt the buffalo herds, and that's what those Plains Indians really needed. So there would be some tragedies that happened to workers and Native Americans alike as this Transcontinental Railroad is built. Don't forget, the meeting place is in Promontory Point, Utah, and the federal government is paying the railroads in land. So there were curves in the tracks, especially coming from east to west, so that those railroad companies would receive more land. We also talked about the Homestead Act. Remember, the Homestead Act was passed in 1862, and with this act, you guys read it. It was a primary source, and you guys discovered that women could get 160 acres. African Americans could. Of course, families were going to be able to. And this was all an incentive to get people to move out west. But it was very difficult. You guys talked about the sod houses and how you didn't like with the snakes living in there or the spiders. You guys talked about Tornado Alley, the fires, how difficult it was to grow, learned about the locusts. But again, this signed by Abraham Lincoln really does give people that incentive to move westward. And people are going to take advantage of it, and it will become the breadbasket of this country. We need to talk about the gold rush real quick. It actually starts in 1848 at Sutter's Mill in California. Gold is discovered in the streams. They can stumble upon gold in the open ground, and thus the rumors start. 1849 is the true California gold rush. Thousands of people are rushing to California to strike it rich. And again, I say 1849 because these people were called the 49ers. Thus, the San Francisco 49ers NFL football team gets its name. A lot of the Chinese will come over. The rumors go all the way to China, and they hear of mountains of gold. Thus, they come over. Now, this gold rush doesn't last very long because most people who come over will not strike it rich. And then they're going to need jobs, and a lot of the Chinese start to take what we call American jobs. And so there's this anti-Chinese sentiment that goes on in this country. In 1882, they passed the Chinese Exclusion Act, and this is going to exclude Chinese from becoming citizens for 10 years. And then actually it's going to extend even longer into 1943, but that's for neither here nor there. This anti-Chinese or anti-immigrant sentiment that comes about actually is called nativism. And you have Americans saying that America is for Americans. Except most of us are immigrants. We can trace our family background. But this nativism, keep America for Americans, is actually going to turn into a political party called the Know Nothings. And the Know Nothings are anti-immigrant and pro-American. We as Americans are still dealing with Native Americans as we move westward. And you guys know that we have treated Native Americans extremely poorly in our history. We've killed them. We've removed them from their lands, even when the Supreme Court has supported them. Hopefully that will remind you of Worcester v. Georgia. Well, in 1887, the Dawes Act is passed. And we think, the government, believes they have a way to solve this Native American problem. Right, and I forget. I apologize, you guys. I forget who says the line, but it's something to the effect of "Kill the Indian, save the man." So the line didn't mean to actually physically kill the Native American. It meant to assimilate them. We were going to assimilate them into our culture, bring them into our culture, teach them the white man's ways. Right? You could almost think of it as white man's burden. Wow, that's great analytical information, you guys. But connected to the Native Americans. So what this Dawes Act did is it gave Native Americans 160 acres. This should sound very much like the Homestead Act. And with that 160 acres, they were going to be individual farmers, very much like what we do. I mean, think about how we divide our lands. We put fences up. We put no trespassing signs, right? We want everybody to know it's ours. We don't share it. The Native Americans were very socialist. They shared everything. And of course, we as Americans, we don't like socialism. We don't like people to share. So with the Dawes Act, we are going to assimilate them into our culture. 160 acres of land. The government was going to hold that land in trust, though, for 25 years. So you're going to have to work the land. You're going to have to be a good Native American in order to keep the land. The reservation system was something that the American government came up with to actually protect the Native Americans. Of course, we're moving them off of their land and we're guaranteeing them this reserve land, the reservation system. It was to protect these Native Americans from other tribes. It was to allow them to continue to hunt the buffalo, even though we are decimating the buffalo is white men. So this reservation system, it doesn't really work. Obviously, I guess a lot of the people who are supposed to be giving supplies to the Native Americans, food, shelter, the common supplies they were going to need to survive, they were selling them on the black market. These people who were working for the American government were not taking care of the Native Americans. They were taking care of their own pockets, so it was a corrupt system. Oftentimes we would create reservations just to only take it away again because we found that land to be very valuable. So the reservation system didn't really work very well, especially if you were Native American. Although the map that I showed you previously to this video, that is where the reservations still exist today. And if you look, there are some reservations in the state of New York. Hey, breaking news, it's 1848. Yeah, I'm going backwards again. Got to talk real quickly about the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo that actually ends the Mexican-American War. With that treaty, Mexico agrees that it will stop claiming Texas, Utah, Nevada, all that territory, and it's going to sell it to the United States. God, I think it was like $15 million or something silly like that. You guys could check my numbers by Googling it if you'd like. But anyways, again, now with this treaty, we've really almost completely fulfilled manifest destiny. We're going to worry about that Oregon territory in a few days. But for the most part, we complete manifest destiny. And now the Homestead Act is going to come out, and that's going to push people towards trying to settle that land. Okay, you guys, so that's the end of another exciting review video, and if you say otherwise, I will, well, nothing. I got nothing. But anyways, I hope it helped you out. I hope you like my Batman hat, and, well, this is Commander Scott Simmons signing off from Hartford, Connecticut.